I think the main reason or the main uh, intuition is that because my father is an architect. So basically, when I was a kid, basically he will, you know, just let me to do see his works and let me go on his site and to get knowledge of those things. So I think that's the point where I started to be interested in those buildings, in those architectures. And in school, actually, when I wanted to apply for universities, actually, what my first thought was to major in some engineering degrees. But I also want to do something very artistic. So do want to combine these two things together. So I look at the major list, like something like that, and thought, why don't I do some architecture? Because it fundamentally it combines art and engineering stuffs. So I didn't take too much consideration actually. So I just went for it. I think this is cool. This is for me, and also my father is an architect, so he will help me on that. So that's why I become an architect. Yes and no. I will explain that. Like I think right now the at least in schools it's more artistic. The curriculum is more artistic, and our student is more artistic because I found out that if we, for example, our class include like engineering class, and most of the students won't be able to like calculate those things properly, and mostly they are not interested in those like mathematical terms. And so I mean I think the main focus is still a bit artistic, which I mean it's fine, but it's just not exactly what I expected. It's probably true because PRATT is fundamentally art school, but because it is a 5-year program that is accredited by NAAB, so like all the classes we have to follow these things. And I will imagine other schools will also follow this kind of curriculum. So I think the overall, you know, what we taught is basically the same. I think the problem is I think in studio work you have to be more artistic. And because I know the fact that in the actual reality, like if you're actually doing some buildings, you are basically most part you are going to deal with those engineering problems, and which you are, I think in school you just need to use your imaginations, not overly use your engineering side. Otherwise, like if you do much more engineering things than artistic things, I think why don't you major in engineering or civil engineering? I think in school you have to be like imaginative and be a bit more artistic. It's just that you need to aware that after you graduate, you are not going to be this imaginative, and you are going to deal with a lot with those mathematical problems. I think so because from my intern experience and what I learned from other industries, experienced seniors, yes, we have to deal with that. I think both because if your building cannot be built, how can it be good? What I think of architecture is that if you cannot actually build this in any way, either financially or engineering, well, then it's a bit useless. You're basically an artist, not an architect. An architect, you have to build something, and then it makes sense. So I think it's kind of both. You both need to compromise and a bit in negotiation. Actually, I don't know because I I am a bit of a outsider in the school because I find myself not that interested in architecture anymore. I'm not saying not that interested, it's just that I think I want to choose a different path than the traditional architects. Not yet. The reason why is that I have I have interned in both like design firm and real estate firm and engineering firm. Uh, I think that right now the situation is not good for us, either in real estate or design, because I think these two are fundamentally bound together. If it you need to have a good developer, then you have a good building basically.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are just basically making drawings. And
Right.
now, right, I think right now the economy is not that good, especially in New York City. Uh, like because I know the fact that in last few years we have built too many high-end buildings, and now the market is basically just
That's all.
it's yeah, it's coming down. So and also I think one of the problem with architecture is that it's not as advanced as other majors. What I mean by that is, uh, like it is a very slow process, because if you look at like Forbes, that magazine has Forbes under 30, that basically means between 20 and 30, they think it's possible for other majors, whatever majors, can be successful, but you will never see architect under 30, and
Right.
for a reason, because there are so many things and lot of slow process you need to take, and just a building takes like 2 or 3 years to build, so you cannot rush this process. And I think that kind of you know I think we do need a revolutionary change in this business. I know right now we have like beams, Revit, this kind of things, but I don't think it's fundamentally changed the business. It's still very old fashioned, I think. And I know the fact that a lot of schools, they are, including my school, we are not as technically advanced to adapt those new things. For example, robotics or grasshopper. Even now, the school is struggling to teach us those new things. We are still, use the old way to do things, and I think that's problem. And that's why right now I think I'm still, finding the new path for this major, and that's why I'm not sure the exact destination of my career. I've talked this to one of my professors. We were talking about like what's the core value of architecture education. Uh, he told me that he thinks the core value is to have this a way of thinking. It's almost like a consulting company. Like you have to have a structure of thinking and a critical thinking. Let's just say this, because I know when we doing the studio work, we have to go back and forth to to criticize ourselves and to make a better project. I think that way of thinking is one of the core value that can be transferred to other professions. I don't think there's much things we can transfer, because at least for now, what we learn is basically, how to make a good drawings, how to use those softwares, and those things are basically limited to this particular profession. Not the, I don't think they're really that transferable. Let's just say this. Like I don't dislike it. It's just that I know, when I choose this profession, I think this is a cool, and I still think it is. I still will be fascinated by those, these beautiful drawings, those beautiful projects. Uh, and on the other hand, like if you, for example, if you study, I don't know, economics or history, you don't necessarily need to be a historian if you major in history, or you don't have to be a economist if you major in economics. Like I think undergraduate is just, it's just you practice yourself. You practice your study, your way of study, you practice your critical thinking, those kind of things. And I think those things are fundamentally the same across all majors. It's just that in architecture, you need to learn more um, specific things that relate to the architecture. This question I cannot answer you. I will only say is time will tell. Uh, I think I think in the school you can't be that hysterical about like whether I sacrificed myself, whether I made a mistake on this major. Because I think in undergraduate, most students, like they basically we're coming out from high school, we don't have an idea about what our career is,
Right.
and like it I think if you major in this and you have to, if you want to be successful, you have to work hard for this major because if you can't work hard for this one, how can you work hard for others? And I think the way of to work is fundamentally the same. You just need to work hard and have creative thinkings and to focus on details. I think these criteria is all the same across all majors. No, the reason why is I think even for example, if you want to be a licensed architect, after you graduate from B.ARCH, you have to have like 2 3 years of study practice. Like I think there are so many things that you can learn from the actual experience, and like I think the education we have is only about at most half of the experience we needed to do this. Uh, and also because in school is a very different environment than in the actual design firms. That's why I think it's not necessarily major become a leader in the industry because there are so many things in the industry that you can learn. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I said. Like, is this very slow progress? And in in term like it's a very bad return of investment. Let's just say this, and you don't get the same amount of return as medical school or law school. And I guess that's why there are. I think one interesting is that I think in our school there's like a promotion says I think there are only like 200 or 300 black female architects, licensed architects in the US. I kind of understand why there are so few black female licensed architects because it's just you know, there's no money in it. If we can earn the same money like those computer science majors, I'm sure there will be hundreds of black female architects and other architects as well. Even though we kind of hesitant to talk about money, but it is still a very important thing, and it is still a very you know I think probably is the most important thing when we chose which firm we are going to, which major we are going to. And if architects in most cases they don't get enough money and they get a lot of stress, a lot of work time, you are going to let people to go to other things like me to have a different path.